G. Back. 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 Stand. Back. Come. Easy. Ooh. Ooh. Bill, step in. Back, boy. Back. Back. Whoa. Whoa.
Step him in. Or
Bill, come on. Get up. Whoa. Whoa.
good boy.
G. Oh. Stand. Come on. Tom, step in. Get up. Tom, get up. Easy. Step on. Back. 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 Back, boys. Back. Back, Tom. Back. 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 Back up. Back. Move.
And if you noticed how Eli backed his team and back hawed his team, so it angled that crooked log right up onto where he wants it loaded pretty evenly on the sled with the rest of them. You'll also notice how focused that team of oxen is, even though you've probably heard in the background some of their sisters and cousins hollering at them from across the street and cars and everything else going by. They focus on the task at hand. Very well trained, very disciplined. So this is a nice demonstration of how you can load logs without manual human labor. And the log bolt has quite a few features, even though it's a simple machine. It's got removable bolsters on the sides that double as ramps. You always want a number of light chains around so you can load the logs. You've seen the oxen load the logs by backing up so they can still see what's going on, not something behind them that's going to intimidate or scare them.
Back down. Step G.
These log boats or scoots, skates, drags, whatever term you want to use for these, are widely used. You can see that they're an all-terrain vehicle. They go whether there's snow on the ground or not. They're a little more drag without snow, but you can use them on dirt. You can use them on pretty much everything except modern pavement doesn't do too good with them. But they use them for multi-purposes here in New England. For wood, as you see here, they were used for maple sap, to haul maple sap out of the woods to the sugar houses. Used for a number of things. moving anything that you needed to move, really, particularly when there's snow and ice on the ground. These were the tool of choice for that.
Primitive scoots were just made out of logs.
Just logs.
They weren't even milled. They would just take a log that had a curve to it, 2 of them, put bunks across. Then you can put a bed on it. You can haul rocks with it. You can do whatever you want. And fairly cheap, so you don't have to go all out. The most expensive part is the chains. Some guys like to use ropes. We use chains, but ropes you can do a higher pile. Sometimes if we're doing a log pile for firewood, we'll use ropes so we can tie it to the pile and then pull the logs up onto the pile in the same situation. They just roll on the ropes rather than on the logs.
But if you got a big load on, they were usually bound down with a chain and a wood binder, a twist binder around the load.
Get up.
You can see that pair of cattle there. They lean right into the yoke and off goes the load.
Step G. Step G.
As he turns them, he tries to keep that chain as far off their legs as possible.
Get up, boys.
As that boat swings, that chain pivot point moves. So you would think he's looking at their head. He's always looking at their feet. If they get injured, they're pretty useless for the day or forever, so you have to be careful because there is a lot of time involved in training them.
Ooh. Good.
Keep them going. Keep an eye on that. Catching.
Ooh. Step G.
So John, I hear you warn him to pay attention when you're going downhill because that sled can gain speed on you and run into him.
It's not so much in the dirt, John, but when you're doing it in the snow, they used to use ropes as brakes. At the top of the hill, you would stop and you would tie a rope to the back of that scoot. Of course, we're hauling 3 logs. They were probably hauling 5 or 6 cord at a time. And then you would wrap that rope around a tree, and 2 men would hold that rope and slack it as they went down the hill, so the oxen had no pressure against their backside. The other way you can do that is use the yoke in your favor by, instead of hauling with a chain, you put a pole on that sled, but that limits your ability to turn. But yeah, you don't want a pair of animals to ever get close. I'd rather let them run than take a chance on.
So what I'm getting at is when my dad was 16, he had probably a cord of wood on a sled similar to that and was going downhill in the snow. And he slipped and the sled went right over his knee with a load on.
Yep. Yeah, you have to be careful for yourself too, but
oh yeah,
yep.
You can get hurt. But yeah, you have to be cautious all the time because you're not working with a machine you can turn on or off. These guys, they're animals, they have their own minds too, and you have to be cautious all the time no matter how well trained they are.
1 step is 2 feet.
Right.
So it can run, like I said before, we keep our feet out of the way, we try to keep our hands out of the way. A chain can get tight without you even knowing it and pinch a finger right off. So it's you have to be cautious, but you also have to be patient. If you have a bad day with life in general and you come out here and try and do this, you're in a hurry or anything, they're going to sense it and they're going to know it. If you're anxious, anything. So you're almost better off if you're not in the right mood to do it, then just leave them in the barn because they're very sensitive. You don't think so, but they can understand a lot more than you think. And if they know you don't love who they are, they're not going to do what you ask them to do, no matter how you ask them to do it. So
we're another thing that I want to talk about at the moment. You see those oxen are looking for the green grass, and most old timers didn't let them have much green grass. They wanted them to have dried hay. So they had a thing called a muzzle or a nose basket that went on, and we've got some of them we're gonna show here in a little bit. So they would have strapped them on with a strap over the back of their head up by their horns, and is basically a wire basket, so they couldn't get to the grass. One less distraction.
Typically, they would have been stalled too,
Right.
rather than let out.
Yeah, they weren't pastured. Working oxen really were never pastured.
Right.
Take that one.
Okay. You're gonna use it on the arch?
Yeah. Oh, boys. Whoa. Stand.
So this is what you would hook to most any wagon, or what's called a pole in it. That's the pole that he's hooking up to the ring in the yoke and putting the pin in there. And the pin is what keeps the pole at the same position from going forward or backwards, and it also is like attaches it so they have the power to pull the log cart in this case. And you saw how he stepped them up, and the off one steps right over the pole, and they line up right adjacent to the pole, and they can be hooked up. It's a one-man operation.
Back top.
He's going to back right up to the log that he wants to hook up. The chain is attached. And off he goes.
Tom. Whoa. Back.
Let me go a little tighter with that chain.
Yeah, you want to hook that tighter?
Yeah, come back.
Whoa.
So the chain is tightened a little bit so that when they go ahead, it lifts up on the front edge of the log and it doesn't dig into the dirt. And you'll see the front edge of the log come up just a little bit when they start to go forward.
Walk them right over that rock.
And it draws
then make
along
that
much
log
easier.
Go one side or the other.
Get up. Walk over it. Whoa.
It's another thing we try to teach them in the woods is to go parallel over an obstacle. But then when you get to where your log is, you want to make sure you're not going to hit that rock and end that log or stop them dead. So you try to straddle everything and then off center at the last second so you can get around that obstacle. It was tough to see with the scoot on the top of the hill with all those rocks, but where he stopped and turned is all determined by what's on the ground. So as you're walking, you're looking back, turning your head and reading where you're going.
Boys.
So you don't pin them in a corner
Step G.
and then get stuck with a heavy load without moving.
Ooh. And you'll notice every time they start walking and the cart starts moving, it lifts the front of the log. You can haul a lot more weight with a log arch versus just a dead drag on the ground. It's one of the advantages of the log arch. We've got another one that you take the cart off of the animals, flip it right up, and you can take any size log, pick it right up off the ground, go across a hayfield and leave nothing but tire marks. Whoa. Get up. Get up.
I think they're starting to get a little bored, which is understandable.
Whoa, whoa.
Right there, we're measuring the chain. We usually hook it to the yoke, whether it be a ring or a link or anything, and then we wrap it around their back end tight. Try to get to their pin bone, maybe a little bit past it. That's about as long as you. It's about as long as you want it, and about as short as you want it, because you don't want it to catch their hocks.
Oh.
Too much slack doesn't allow any lift in the draw. Not enough will bring the load too close to their feet, so when they step, the load will hit their feet and make them very hesitant to do anything, pull, or even walk when you have a load on.
Back.
You're just going to pull it?
Yeah. Back, Tom.
You're on.
Oh. Ooh. Ooh.
Nice and easy. Easy, boys.
Oh. Step up. Step up. Whoa. Whoa.
Oh. You're good.
Back.
Just watch that link.
Eli, how many hours a day or a week do you work with these guys to get them?
Usually to have them perfectly polished up, you work with them about an hour every night after work. But that doesn't include the feeding and the brushing and all the rest that goes with that. When I was younger, it was I used to work them in the morning for an hour, and at night they would pull weight for about an hour. Go around and around. So, a lot easier when you're younger. You don't have work to do.
And how old are these guys?
These guys are 6. They'll be 7 in October. Yep, that's they're about half aged. If you take care of them and don't let them get fat, they'll live 12, 13 years.
We've seen a pair of Devons as old as 20 still going to exhibitions and pulling weight. And they probably would have still been doing it, but they died in a barn fire. I'll carry those, Eli.
No, I got it.
So these two, you ask how old are they? They were born in October of 2013 in the barn right here, and they spent their first 6 months here, and then Eli bought them, and they've been his ever since, and he's done an excellent job with them.
Their first year out, they went to the Big E at 6 months old.
No, they were 8 months.
8 months old, and they were 1 point shy of a perfect score, and they won. Eli and the team won junior champion in all of New England at the Big E.
Bill, step in.
Is the perfect score the handler, the oxen, or both?
It's both. It's timed. They judge you on your ability to read the course, to operate in the course, whether you hit any obstacles, your sportsmanship. You want to tighten up?
Tighten up, boy. Bill. Tighten up. Ooh. Ooh. It's also important to tighten up that chain so you don't have a whole lot of slack and jerk their necks around. Get up. Step G.
You know, they have to, you know, besides the driver telling them where to go, they also like to see where they're going. They also, in time, learn to watch for rocks and other hazards. You saw when they went through the mud, they kind of jumped over that with their back feet and kept right on going. They're always observant, seeing what's going on around them.
Whoa.
A lot of times when they first take off and you see that spine arch a little bit, they're getting their head low so they can bring their head up. And that little head up will give that load a little lift. That's where I was talking about the chain. If the chain is too long, they can't get that lift. If it's too short, the load will catch up with them. If you watch them right from here, once he gets that sled straight and they take off, you'll see their head go down. It's not heavy enough to do it, but their arched backs, that shows that they're starting to get into that pull mode.
And the purpose of the horns in the oxen going uphill and down?
Going uphill, no purpose. A lot of people like to hold on to them. We do not. We don't believe in halters, leads, touching the animal with your hand unless you're petting it. But going down a hill, when you have a cart or a pulled mechanism behind you, as it comes down the hill, as we were talking before, it will push forward. The yoke will come up against the back of their horns, and they'll pick their head up to try and hold it back. So the yoke is not only a forward momentum device, it's also a set of brakes. So that's why you don't usually dehorn them. I know some people that have, but the yoke could slip right over their ears and off their head, and then the load will catch them and hit them.
Whoa.
So it's very important to leave them on. Some people train the horns.
Back.
They'll train them down so they're not
Back.
sticking up, so the teamster doesn't get any hooks or scratches. But we don't bother with that. We like the way they look. We like the Devons, the way they grow out. They look very majestic when they're working hard. Come on. Come on.